Revivalist podcast. My name is John, and I'm here with my amazing co-host and wife, Jess.
Hey, John.
Hey, Jess, how you doing?
Great. How are you?
I am doing absolutely amazing, and it looks like today is one of the days that we get to talk about relationships that are sort of there, but not. It's almost one of those things where if you get the wrong thought in your head, you're gonna think, "Oh, I'm just gonna ditch the relationship." And we don't want that. You know, and you gave an analogy when we were talking earlier about an airplane, right?
Yeah. So like an airplane, if it gets off course just a few degrees at the beginning, it doesn't seem like it's very off course. But the farther it goes off course, the farther away from its destination it ends up. Mm-hmm. And so just like, you know, you and your spouse, we don't want to end up far away from each other, right? So
this is true.
So when you realize that you're off course, that's the time to bring it back in together.
Yeah, and so as we progress through our relationship, you know, one of the things that I've really thought of as we have progressed in our relationship is that you and I are a team. And as we're a team, we are each other's cheerleader. We are going the same direction, and it makes things so much easier when you're a team. Because, you know, I've been in relationships before where it seemed like we weren't on the same team. In fact, we probably weren't. We were actually competing against each other to see who can be one up at each other, you know. And you know, maybe that's fine in certain situations. You're just playing and having fun. But when you do this all the time, it wears you down, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. When you're a team, you want to make sure that you and your spouse are working together and to get to the same goal, and that you're going in the same direction. You're on the same page together. Mm-hmm. It's really, really important.
Yeah, so we have to be sure that we're progressing through life, making changes and decisions all the time during our life so that we're on the same team. We're encouraging each other to make the right decisions.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's just kind of goes without saying, really, because when we get married, the whole idea is you become one. You separate from your parents and you become one. And when you're one, that means you're a team. I mean, that's kind of a given right there.
Yep. I was thinking about the other day, I was at a place and there was a couple there, and I found out that they had been married for 60 years.
Wow.
They were so adorable. They walked in on their own power, smart as whips, just an adorable couple, and so sweet and loving to each other. And the man in the couple said some sweet things about his wife, because somebody asked him, you know, how they met and things like that. And you can tell he's still so excited about her, and that she's still so excited about him. And, but they came from a time where they didn't just throw things out, whether it was physical things or relationships. Mm-hmm. You know, a lot of people in that era, 60 years ago, you know, divorce wasn't as prevalent as it is today. Mm-hmm. And, you know, people didn't cook with microwaves. They didn't have things immediate and fast. Mm-hmm. And they didn't have, you know, internet dating or whatever. So when you found your person, you kept your person most of the time, you know, for the most part. And so that's really what we're talking about today. It's important not to just throw your relationship away, even if no matter if, you know, you feel a little bit off course or very, very, very much off course. And we wanted to share a couple of scriptures with you to help encourage you in that way. And John, would you like to share the first one?
I would. And we were kind of chatting before just to, you know, kind of get the structure of what we're going to talk about today. And one of the verses that popped into my head because of the topic that we're talking about is Revelation 21:5, and it basically says that God makes all things new. So if you think about that in a way of your relationship, Each and every day, your relationship is new. And I'm not saying that this is Groundhog's Day, for crying out loud. I mean, you don't want to have that memory loss and think, oh, who are you? No, we're not talking about that. He makes things new and exciting, and he makes things so that you can have a fresh outlook on your life. You can have a growing love, a love that is fresh and new and exciting, and in all these amazing just characteristics that you can think about a relationship. And it's a really exciting thing to know that he makes it new for you. And he'll take, just like the next verse that we're going to share with you, he'll take things from one end of the spectrum all the way to the other, and not even have to blink an eye about it. So don't lose hope in your relationship, because it's not what you think it is.
Yeah. And with God, things really are never as bad as they seem. When we think all hope is lost, he's saying, try it again.
Yeah.
Just do this. Just do this little thing. Do it one more time. Still small voice just leading us, like, one more time. And the next scripture that we wanted to share with you is in Ezekiel chapter 37.
Say that 10 times fast.
No, thank you. Got that one out. But in that chapter, Ezekiel is talking with God, and God is showing him the valley of dry bones. So just imagine just a bunch of dry bones laying around, no life left in them whatsoever, not even any, nothing moist or supple anymore. And so that looks like an impossible situation. And so your relationship might look impossible to stay together or bring together. But when you bring God into it, that's when things change. And so God told Ezekiel to prophesy to the dry bones, to prophesy life to them. And God was showing Ezekiel, hey, I can bring life back to anything. But he used Ezekiel's words, and he told him what to say, but he told him to prophesy, to speak out. And, we are created in God's image. He created us that way. He's our Father. And so as his children, we also have the ability to speak life. So our words are so powerful. We've talked about that on several podcasts. And we've talked about speaking life into our relationship and speaking good things to your spouse. And so here it is again. We can prophesy into our own relationships by speaking life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the other thing you can think about is when you're in a relationship, you obviously know it takes two people in order to have a relationship. But, something that's really profound and really awesome is that it only takes one person to believe in that relationship. And that belief starts with using your words to speak life into that relationship. It's almost like a fail-safe that God put in there so that divorce wouldn't happen. But, the thing the verse that popped into my mind just now is that we fail basically because we don't know. And I kind of paraphrased a little bit of that. We don't know, so we fail. So how do we fix that? Well, we start learning how. And when you can have the knowledge of how to build your relationship up and make it a great one, this is something that is priceless and can go on for years to come. And you can teach your children, if you're going to have children, or if you have children, teach your children this for, this is what their lifeblood is going to be about. Learning how to have a relationship and keeping that relationship alive, because we want to our ultimate goal here is obviously to make you guys into relationship pros, and also to experience that explosive love. And if you're doing that, we're going to also affect that divorce rate to go down. And we would love to see that divorce rate go further down and further down, because, the enemy of our souls is the one that's tearing, stealing, and doing whatever he can to make us have the worst experience here on this earth. And God said that we are here to have an experience that is more abundant and prosperous.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's a whole point of this. We want to have a relationship with God, and we want to learn how to have a relationship with each other that is abundant and explosive in a good way. So the next thing that we were going to talk to you about is, when we're talking to people who are having a relationship issue, or they're just going through a time that's not very good. I kind of like to relate that to when you're in a bad time, you're in the ocean and you're at the top of the ocean where all the waves are at, and you're getting knocked from one side or the other by a wave, and you're just going, come on, where is my rest at? And so God is just saying, speak life into your relationship, speak life into whatever troubles you're having, and start coming down into the area where there is no waves. If you go deeper into Him, and you can relate that into going deeper into the ocean, there's no waves there. And so that's where your rest is. So go deeper into God. He will protect you with His wing. And, the other thing is,
when you were talking about the ocean and the waves, and we were talking earlier about the story when Jesus and the disciples were in a boat and they were crossing to the other side of the river, and a storm came up and there was a lot of wind and waves, and Jesus was just asleep in the boat. How could He sleep through all that? Just at peace, sleeping. And the disciples were afraid for their very lives. They thought they're going to die. And so they wake Jesus up, the story, and He says, peace, be still. Just that simple. And the wind and the waves stop, and then they get to the other side just fine. And He also was trying to teach them, hey guys, you could have done this too. You didn't have to wake me up. You had the power to do this too.
He might have been a little grumpy that he got woken up.
Right? Like, oops. Yeah. So our words are so powerful, like we were talking about. And so it might seem like a huge storm. It might seem like a dead relationship, but it takes one person to start speaking life.
Yeah.
And pretty soon you see things happen.
Yeah. Yeah. And here's another little tip. And, we've said this before too, but when you've got you and your spouse, your husband or wife, and you're doing life the way you know how, you may come into some of those waves that we talked about just now. And if you are doing that, perhaps you could go deeper with God, and you could bring God into your relationship, make Him your head of the household. And He created us equally. So let's act like we're equal, okay? And that is the secret ingredient to having an amazing relationship. Bring that 3-braided cord into your relationship, and wow, those
the strands are you, your spouse, and God.
Exactly. And those are not very easily undone or cut through, because, when you have God in that equation, He not only is that strand, but He's also the protective sheath around that. And you can't do much more than that, because if God's for you, who can be against you, right?
Right. That's a rhetorical question.
Yeah.
We know the answer to that one. No one.
And so the whole purpose of us here is to be able to have our relationship go the same direction. We want to be on the same team, like we mentioned in the first part of the conversation that we're having here. Be on the same team, go in the same direction. And we do that by, learning how to have relationship. And when you have a relationship that you love and that you look forward to each and every day and every night, you love every minute that you are in that relationship, that's what life is about. That's where we get to just relax. And, we've got to go to work. We've got to do other things that sometimes we don't want to do, but, you always have the relationship right there for you that you can just rest and relax in.
Always, that safe place to come home to, that same safe person to come home to. It's very special.
Yeah. And, we're just going to end this on a note that we want to make sure you get inside of you, because this is so important. when you're in a relationship and you say you have this relationship that either you or your spouse keeps doing the same thing, and mainly I'm talking about you. If you're doing the same thing, you cut that relationship off because of one reason or another, and you decide, hey, I'm going to go into a different relationship. And then, what's really going to happen is you're going to have that same thing happen. Same issue is going to come back and rear its ugly head. And why is that? Do you think, Jess?
Well, if you haven't learned it the first time, right, and you're thinking, oh, I don't like what's going on, I'm just going to go find somebody else. The same issues will keep coming up until you learn it, until you learn the lesson you're supposed to learn.
Yeah.
So, it might be better to stay with the person that you're with.
Especially if you're married.
Right. And, do the things that we're teaching you.
Yeah. And even more so, start working on yourself, work on your mindset, work on everything about yourself that you can. It's about providing to your spouse the best version of yourself each and every day. So if you're going to be able to do that, you have to be willing to learn. You have to have an open mind to learning. And then not only that, you can learn the stuff and keep it inside, but what good does that do, right? It's like the talents that God gave the three people, right? The three wise men. So the wise men? No, not the wise men. But anyways, he gave three people talents, 1, 2, and 5, right?
Oh, yeah, that parable.
Yeah.
Like 10 talents to one, 5 to another, 1 to another.
Right. So he gives that to you. So take that in consideration for your knowledge. And if you have the knowledge, but you don't apply that knowledge, well, what good is it if you don't apply the knowledge that you learned? You can apply it. And then the other thing is you want to teach. You want to do the teaching too. You want to teach your kids. You want to teach your family. Hey, this is what I learned about having a great relationship. And show them what you've learned, and they will learn it too. And then it's a compounding effect. So learn how to have the amazing relationship. Learn how to make your mindset, your heart. I like to call it your heart set, because ultimately it's your heart, and your heart is not where your heart is. It's down in your belly, where rivers of
living
water flows. And so you get that all set and squared away. And that is where your default actions start to happen. And when that happens, you're going to be having an amazing relationship. You won't do things that you don't want to do, like Paul speaks of in the Bible. And, from there, you're on to your way to having that explosive love that we speak of here.
That's so exciting. Yeah.
So, we usually go about 15 minutes. We're a little bit longer, but, today, we want to encourage you to visit our website, our blog. It's called therelationshiprevivalist.com, and it's with an S at the end, revivalists, because we are two, not just one.
That's right.
And,
but we're one together, but they understand.
Yeah. And, if go ahead and share the podcast out with other people and let them know that we've got a podcast out. We're pretty proud of this endeavor that we are doing. We're looking forward to seeing you on the next podcast next week. And until then.
Oh, and make sure and dodownload our ebook.
Oh, yes. Thanks for reminding me. Yes.
And where do they find that ebook, John?
They can find that at ebook.therelationshiprevivalists.com.
Good job.
So ebook.therelationshiprevivalists.com. And that's it for today. We look forward to seeing you next week, and have an amazing day.
See you later.